Happy Tuesday, friends. Oh,
no, baby, it's Wednesday.
Tuesday, right? Do I not know this? It's because I forgot to take my scarf off. But y'all know how it is. It's like when you're riding in the car and you're going somewhere and you have your scarf on. You got to remember to take it off. I forgot. It's off now. Happy Wednesday, friends. Girl, as the old church says, I'm yet holding on.
Well, I'm glad you're holding on. I am.
I said yet holding on. Okay, that don't. You're supposed to say, "Well, keep on keeping on." That's what the grandmama said.
You know what? I am not going to say keep on keeping on. I'm going to say hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. That's what I'm going to say.
So I got my COVID shot. Yay!
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Yeah, so you got the Johnson & Johnson, correct?
I did get the Johnson & Johnson.
This Saturday, I get my last shot, so then I'm fully vaccinated. I'm looking forward to that. I know that Sunday I'll probably be knocked out.
Yeah, I slept a little bit yesterday. But I did do the whole, my very good friend is a nurse, so I did the whole emergency before, emergency after, ibuprofen. And so otherwise I feel pretty good. And I know it's like a hot topic for everybody, but to each its own. Yeah. However, I do have a little person that I'm responsible for, and I would never forgive myself with the work that I do and the people that I come in contact with if I inadvertently somehow made this little baby not well. So, you know, everybody do your part.
Good. Mine was sore for like 2 days.
When I went to get it, it was like a military guy. And he was like, "Are you ready?" I was like, "No, I'm nervous." And then he was like, he just pointed at my arm. He was like, "Really? You're nervous?"
Right.
I was like, that's different.
He knows you like a little pain in your life.
He was like, "Really, ma'am, you're nervous? You have a whole half sleeve. Are you serious right now?" And then we were done. He just totally distracted me. So otherwise, you know what? I'm good. This month, I have looked forward to every single Wednesday this month. Like, I don't know
how it's Wednesday.
Now I know it's Wednesday. It's podcast day. I don't know how we're going to top this month because the ladies that we've had this month, of course, they made my best friends via Facebook. But it's like I've been fangirling over them and thinking like, man, you know, this time last year, I was like watching Tiger King and making cinnamon rolls and like laid up on my couch with my foot over the back. And these ladies was like, kicking butt.
They were out there killing it. They have that passion of getting some things done that's very, very important to them. So which is going to be very important to every community that they're in. So
let's bring on another dope chick that we love, Adrian Lipscombe. Let's bring her in. Hey, Adrian.
Hey guys, how are y'all?
We're good. We are good. Excited to have a conversation with you. It's just so much. Like I said, girl, you was working last year. I don't get on here and lie. I really took about 10 months off. And the 25 pounds that I gained are proof that I literally did nothing. I was wearing that couch out.
I think you're being a little hard on yourself.
You know what? I needed that break though. So I'm just saying I didn't do nothing. I watched all y'all work and was like, go girls, go girls.
I think self-care was definitely needed last year. And if it was a great excuse to have some self-care, I think I'm all for it. You know, it's kind of sad that a pandemic had to happen for us to have some, you know, especially Black women to say, I got to have some time to myself. But it was a very busy last year. It's starting to be a busy 2021. We still, you know, like I still feel like it's still 2020 and it's just kept going.
I said that. I was like, I feel like 2021 is 2020 with a bad synthetic wig. Like she just left the room, put on a bad wig and came right on back in like she was somebody else. Because this year ain't really let up.
It really hasn't, and you know, and I'm a news reader, and you read the news, and you go back and you look at your memories, like your Facebook memories. I'm happy I got them Facebook memories because I'm like, that shit's still happening. I don't know if I can cuss on here, but you're like, that still is.
We can, because I'm not cursing because it's Lent, and so I'm not supposed to, but I might slip one in here or there. But
I thought you stopped that. I thought
No, you know what? I felt convicted to just be consistent. So I did slip up, but I'm really trying to make it. I only got a few more days. I could do it.
Yeah, but it's been like 2020 just kicked up again, like we're just starting off, all over again. Oh, I see my girl. Hey.
That's our girl. We love T.
Yeah, we love her. She's
so you, girl, where do we start? Do we want to start with the 40 acres on a mule project, or do we want to start with what you were doing before that?
Can we start in the beginning so that people know?
Yeah, let's start at the beginning.
Yeah. Let's start in the beginning.
Yeah, so I am. So I'm Adrian. I am in La Crosse, Wisconsin right now, and my background is not culinary; it is architecture. So I have my bachelor's and master's in architecture, and I'm a Ph.D. candidate in city planning. So it's not totally disconnected from food, but it's a more systematic, structural way of dealing with food. I moved up here and I opened a restaurant, and I was busy before, and I don't think people really kind of realized, like, Black women were hustling before you noticed them that they're hustling. So, I was working for the city, I was teaching, I was doing my PhD, and I owned a bakery, and I had a family. So, I was already
kids too, girl. Yes, they just make you want
to. So I was working before people started noticing what I was, what I'm doing. And so last year, again, people didn't even know I had a baby last year. So I had a baby in February.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a baby in February, and it was like my first time really trying to take maternity leave off. And I kind of, I watched the news. I was at the hospital watching the news, and I was watching what was happening in Europe and China and them going back and forth. And I was just like, is this coming? And I'm like, is it my hormones? Like, what's wrong with me? And, I'm telling my husband.
Because you know what? It's because what we were being told and what our eyes were seeing and what we were reading, it's like, do I believe you, or are my eyes and my brain lying to me? Because my eyes and my brain are telling me that this is not a 2-week situation.
No, this was not. I was calculating, I'm already like calculating in my mind, and my husband, when he came to get me from the hospital, I was already talking about masks. I was like, should we get masks? Everybody in Europe wearing masks right now. Call your mom. His mom lives in Europe. I'm like, what's happening over there? What do we need to do, like, to get moving?
Right.
And, so I went home, and then March, and start of March, everything started happening. And as a restaurant owner, our space was never really, I never considered it, quote unquote, a restaurant. We considered it a community impact space because we moved into this community to work on revitalization and helping the community. So put my planning hat on right there to talk about revitalization and do work. So before we even opened the doors, we had a 3-day event. I bought other planner friends in from public spaces to economics to kind of figure out what the community wanted for themselves, like find their voice. And this is before we even opened our doors and even knew what food we were going to serve, what we were going to look like. This was even before our name. This was just come together and try to create kind of like a comprehensive plan of what this neighborhood wanted.
Right.
And with that, we decided to open a restaurant that would focus on trying to be part of the community, because we knew we wouldn't survive the way I wanted to if we did not have our community support. Like, if we serve good food, great, people would come for some good food, but to have that constant and not just be a destination, but be a location within a neighborhood and within our community, we really worked very hard on creating that relationship. So when the pandemic hit, it was a shock to the system for everybody. And one thing that happened, and I don't know if y'all experienced this, but there was a phenomenon that was happening where white people were sending money to Black people. And I had received, we're kind of old fashioned here. We have a lot of old people here. I received a check in the mail, nothing listed, just a check. And it was wrapped around like this stamp paper that had a Snoopy on it that said keep dancing. There was no writing, it was just a check. Per the address, I saw it with somebody in my town, and I was just like, keep dancing. I was like, what am I supposed to be dancing for? Am I stripping? What was this money? You know, like, was this money for?
Like, I'm not starting an OnlyFans, am I?
Yeah, I was just like, and I was like, did I have a catering gig? You know, did I owe something to somebody?
Right.
And I just kind of set it aside. And then 2 days later, a fellow peer restaurateur, another owner, asked for my Venmo and said they wanted to send me money. And I was just kind of perplexed because I'm like, you in the same situation I am and in the same town that I am with the shelter in place and things starting to happen. But why are you sending me money? And so this is, you know, after George Floyd and everything that happened. And you start thinking, is it reparations? Is it white guilt? You know, like these things, because, you know, I'm hearing about different experiences about people getting money and I'm laughing like, whoa, this ain't happening to me. Right. But then all of a sudden it happens to me. And I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with this? So I woke up the next morning and I said, I'm going to buy Black land. It just was clear as day. I was like, I work with farmers in my area and I have 0 Black farmers. I have a limited number of farmers of color in my area, mainly Hmong farmers, but we don't have any Black farmers in my county.
Wow.
In fact, Wisconsin has about 65 farmers that identify as Black out of 65,000 farms that exist. So it made it kind of clear for me that this was what I wanted to do, but I had to do a deep history dive on really understanding what does owning land and being Black means. And, you know, within, you know, I had time on my hands, so it was a lot of reading, a lot of understanding what happened. And I, you know, everybody knew, or I knew, or about 40 acres. Everybody has said 40 acres in the mule. It was coming up talking about reparations. And I said, well, what exactly does that mean? Like, what was the history with that?
Sometimes I feel like people, it's a catchphrase, like we talked about last year, like Juneteenth. You know, everybody felt the urge to celebrate Juneteenth, but it's like, do you all really know what it is that you're celebrating? Or is this something that you just heard and you just keep saying over and over and over again?
And I, you know, I'm from Texas. So, you know, I was asked that question several times about Juneteenth and everybody wanted to celebrate Juneteenth and how did I feel? And because, you know, there was like a line, like people are like, no, you can't celebrate it. You're not from Texas. And the way that I felt about it is like, I don't mind if you celebrate it, but I do not want you to dilute the reason why it exists, why it took so long for slaves to be freed in Texas, and really have a understanding of why we celebrate Juneteenth every year. You know, because I mean, I literally, and I still do, not even being in Texas, Juneteenth, I'm off. You know, and when I would be asked by my white counterparts, like, oh, where are you going? It's a Black holiday. I literally would just say it's a Black holiday. And they would be like, oh, you know, just, and they would leave me alone about it. But, you know, things like that is lost on us.
Right. And I didn't know until last year that the Missouri infantry that went down to help free the slaves in Texas then came back and used their money to found Lincoln University. Like, I didn't know that until this year. And so I think that it was a good time for us to learn too.
Right. And about the celebration. I mean, we were freed as slaves, but we couldn't congregate together. And so slaves got together and bought land and created the Emancipation Park. You know, so there's so many things that, you know, like, so Blacks could gather on a piece of property, you know, to celebrate. But, you know, behind that celebration was still like knowing that you could congregate in that space to try to find your family members. So people took out ads, you know, and saying, you know, they're going to be here, they're going to be at this park. Hopefully they can find their daughter. Hopefully they can find their father, you know, and when Juneteenth came, it was like a family reunion, hence family reunion. Like literally they were trying to have family reunions. And I hope, you know, as we move forward, we'll see what Juneteenth really looks like across the nation this year. But, you know, I don't want it to be a catchphrase or a buzzword. But I hope that people really decide to dive in and really investigate, what these mean for our Black history.
Yes.
The things that you're not going to see in the what quote unquote the U.S. history books.
Which I feel is changing.
They're not even history books.
That is changing also. Our history books are changing because we are changing and we're demanding our history to be actually told. So I think it's going to be quite different coming from this year and years to come.
Because right now it's creative writing. My daughter does virtual school, and I know during Black History Month, her teacher was probably like, can we please put on the headphones? Because they was saying stuff, and I was like, no, George Washington's teeth came from his slaves. I just want to point that out. Do you want me to send you the link with the picture of the teeth? Because they have them. And then they were like, what about when you discovered America? I was like, oh, nope, you can't discover a country where there's already people living here. Yeah. And the teacher was like, but no, ma'am. Don't be teaching my baby that somebody discovered someplace where there's
and with Thomas Jefferson, I mean, we can go down the line of presidents and really go into that deeply. And I think, white people kind of romanticize what their history is or what the history of the United States should be.
Fantasized, made up. Some of it's like a whole, like, were you there? Where were you?
I know it's really, I grit my teeth when they approve history books because they're, approving what the history should be. Like, what should we be teaching our kids? And so, my own kids, I try to be very truthful and very upfront. I have a teenager, so he knows a lot more than any of his classmates when it comes to this, because he watched his mom go through her Ph.D. work and watched me go through my college and really had to understand. And we were very honest and truthful from the beginning. He went to a Montessori school, and we were fully invested in the school and the teachers about talking about MLK, talking about what Black history really means. We had conversations on Mommy and Me days about what segregation was when he approached me about it and said it was stupid. Like, why? That means Mommy and Daddy couldn't be together. He was like, were you around in 1960? And I was like, oh. And I was like, why you ask that question? And he was like, because you and Daddy couldn't be together. And he explained it to, like, you have like this. He was less than 5. He's like between 3 and 5, explaining to you what segregation is, in his own language. And then I asked him how he felt about that. And he said, that's stupid. He said, they were stupid. And I mean, you can't argue with that, right? You can't argue with that. So yeah, especially last year, we went through a lot of heartache, a lot of violence. And I'm about 2 hours away from Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. So with George Floyd, you could feel it, but I'm in a community that's mainly white, that are very empathetic towards it, didn't know what to do about it, was looking for information, wanting to be a part of it. But you find this process where, you're finding out if they're allies or they're trying to be saviors. And there's a thin gray line between what side you're going to be on. So, a lot of walking on eggshells, not.
You notice, like, you would go to a grocery store and you were going down. This was for me because I was working in a pretty much predominant all white neighborhood at the time all this happened. I was walking through the grocery store, and if I got cut off and it was by a white person, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? It was like that all the time. Like, I almost hated going to the grocery store. Instead, I would just order online and just pick it up because I got tired of someone saying, oh my God, are you okay? Mm-hmm. I'm so sorry. They weren't giving out money, but they were apologizing a lot.
Mine was giving out money, but not, they were not facing you when they gave you the money, I mean, I received one, and I don't even talk about it, but I received one that said, from a privileged white lady, and that was, it was like a cashier check, and it was for 40 acres. And I'm just like holding it like, do I really want to cash this? Like, do I really, what's this process that they feel that they need to get money, but also, what are they thinking? And that's me, because I put my research hat on, because I studied attitude and behavior. You're just kind of like trying to figure out, is it this moment that's causing this guilt, that they're finally seeing their color for this month or whatnot to say, man, we're wrong. And that the best way that some people can do is pay you or give you money and that aspect. And so I was like, well, I'm going to put it towards one of the things that our ancestors asked for was land, right? Mm-hmm. We were brought over here because we had talent. We knew how to farm. We knew how to cook. We had skills. They took us to do those skills on a land that they felt belonged to them, that had no skills. That was not native, that they were savages upon that land, even though we were savages, but we had skills. And they knew us more than they knew what was happening here, and that we would be able to work out what's happening in the United States. And so when we were released to say, you're free, well, what are we supposed to do? We're about 3 generations deep, People don't know where their motherland is. People don't even know their own mother. I mean, there's this whole process. And when
that's where the whole go back to Africa thing, like grinds my gears.
Yeah, it's so interesting because when it came to the war and when they were releasing slaves, they were following them. They were following them in drones, the armies in drones, to the point that a lot of them were slaughtered by the South before following, because they tried to trick them to make them go to, they built a bridge, made the slaves build a bridge, crossed it, cut the bridge off, and left them on the other side. This was so big because they didn't know where to go, what to do. They didn't want to stay on the master's land. What were they supposed to do? So when 40 acres came about, it was General Sherman had a meeting with 21 black leaders. And he asked 12 questions. And one of the questions, like, what do you want? And one of them stood up and said, we want land. And they were conquering and taking land over as they were heading south, all the way through Georgia, Mississippi, and such. And he reported back to Lincoln, and they were like, okay, we're going to give everybody 40 acres and a mule, which a mule exists from all the war. They had all these mules, and they gave it to them. And so when Abraham Lincoln died, Johnson went in office. He reverted all that back, gave the land back. But the thing is what he didn't expect is that people fought. People fought to keep their land. People killed to keep their land, to keep their identity. And so it was turning into like almost another war. So they decided to do this. They said, the master can keep the land, but if you want to live on it, you will owe the master, the person who used to own it. You can sharecrop. So that's where sharecropping came from. So you work the land, whatever you have, you give half. You sell, you give half. And then you start thinking about that. Well, they needed tools. They had to take loans. They had to take tabs out. They were taking expensive tabs out.
Right, because people don't understand. They're like, if Tom Jenkins came in for a hoe, it's $1.
Right.
If former slave Brown came in for a hoe, it's $10.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So you had this whole effect that was already happening to them. The government tried to Band-Aid with the Farmers Bureau, and it's just snowballs to where we are today, and the issues right now that led to part of the relief fund to include billions of dollars for what has happened to Black farmers, especially with the pig fur case and the detail about that is a lot of Black farmers were not able to get their loans, or what was happening is that they were getting their loans late, or they were getting only a percentage of what they needed for their loans. So the process of getting their loans late meant that they couldn't plant on time for the season. So they were trying to catch up, in which that means they probably weren't going to get to sell their product. They probably weren't going to get a great crop or a bumper crop that was going to lead for them to have a successful crop there. Because down at the local level of the USDA, everybody's friends. Everybody's a farmer. USDA people are farmers too. The banks are coming from farmers. A majority of them, I'm going to say most of them were white. Most of them were friends.
But this goes to why we as Black people are not shocked, right? So because I went to a predominantly white high school, and they're like, what, even, and I worked, in predominantly white establishments, and that when that old dude, I do not say his name, was elected, they were like crying. They were like, well, how could this happen? And I was like, are you guys serious? What do you mean, how could this happen? And I broke it down to them. I said, I'm going to tell you how it happened. Your mamas and your aunties put their kitten heels on and their power suit and their pussy hats and marched their asses right on in there and voted for that fool. That's how it happened. Why? Because they could deal with that versus that something different. And as Black women, we're used to the needle being moved. It's no surprise for us that when you set the rules and we get there, or we're ready to exceed that expectation, that all of a sudden it's a whole nother set of rules and expectations, because that's how it's been for Black women, for Black people since day one. You can have land. Oh, psych. No, you can't have land. Okay, well, you can rent the land, but no, you can't rent the land. Or you can vote. Just kidding. No, you can't vote. You can have businesses. Oops, we're going to burn them down. Now you can't have businesses.
Yeah. And I mean, and when you think about it during the pandemic and what was happening to restaurants and affecting restaurants, and a restaurant like mine that depended on farmers, I automatically thought about Black farmers, because I already knew that there was only like 2% of Black farmers. And right now we don't even really know that number. And I mean, everybody's scrounging to try to find out who's identifying as Black, whatnot, because it hasn't been done since like 2017. So, the next census, everybody's kind of grinding at the gears to kind of like get out there and get these numbers. But the reality is it's going to be smaller. When you're looking at 98% of your farmers that are not Black, and the majority of that 98 is still Caucasian, there's a big problem.
It's smaller because we drug our feet on the relief, and we waited till the 11th hour to help people. You can't wait until people are what did they say? Let's just talk about renters, right? By the time they passed the second bill, the average renter was like $7,000 behind in rent. Now imagine if you're a farmer renting a farm.
Right.
And that's how y'all want to pat on the back because you passed a second bill a week before the other one's about to expire.
Right. And the farming economics is very ugly to begin with. If you are, taking a loan to change the agriculture or the architecture of your land, to pray you got a good crop to sell, that you'll be able to pay back your loan, but still live, to do this again, to show that you are successful, that you have to go ask for another loan, is mind-blowing to me. Now imagine if that person's Black and they can't get a loan, or they can't even get a 20% of what they are asking for their loan, or they have to put their house up. And that's, and that's where you see them like putting their hands together like this, is because they want you to, because they want to be able to sell that land to a white person. And it doesn't even matter if that white
corporate farm
successful or not.
Or a corporate farm or a developer, and it turns into a new subdivision out in the middle of nowhere where people don't really need to freaking live. And you know what I was thinking about too, even with this round of PPP loans, like I applied, and during the George Floyd and the wake of all that, my bank was like knocking, do you need a loan? What do you need us to do? Literally, girl, the first round, I didn't have to do I didn't fill out anything. I sent them my Schedule C and said, yes, put it into the account that y'all want it in. They said, this is the amount that you qualify. I said, okay, great. What are the rules? Bam, bam, bam. Do you know this second time? I literally stayed up at 2:00 in the morning when the bank said second draw is available. Got on, logged in, filled my stuff out. Today, that was January 12th. I got my loan documents today.
Yeah.
This is March.
It is mind-blowing. And, with this relief fund, there were things that weren't clear. So I had been talking to USDA and people in the background before it was even approved, because they knew it was going to get approved. And they were like, what are we going to do with this money? Like, where do we go and how do we do this? Because they don't know, or they didn't understand what was going to happen and if this money comes through. We're talking about billions, right? And there's another thing that a lot of people don't really realize is that there's a time limit on the amount of money that they have to use. They have to use it within the billing cycle.
And did my bank stop taking applications on the 19th because PPP is over on the 31st? Ma'ams and sir, you gave me you approved my loan the day the shit was over.
That's what I'm saying. So even with the big money from the relief, it works like almost like corporate. I think it ends in September, so they have to spend all this money to even ask for more money for the next year. So what you're seeing is they have to move fast, right? I mean, they're playing it kind of smart by trying to talk to as many people as possible to try to see what they're going to do. But I think what people don't really realize is that a majority of this farmer relief fund is going towards farmers who already have a relationship with USDA, that have a faulty relationship. This is where they get their forgiveness from. Mm-hmm. So this is not to create new farmers. This is not to push us forward. This is to sustain the farmers that are already existing at the moment, that have in debt loans or with USDA, or have shown fault within USDA to them to be able to get loans. Mm-hmm. And this is forgiveness of up to 125% is what that is trying to do on a good majority of that money. There's probably like 1 billion, something on that nature, is supposed to dive in or kind of tip the toe and trying to figure out, how do we sustain? How do we try to get more people to become farmers? How do we get land access to these people?
How do we, and my question is, how do you guys get the relief to people in a timely fashion? If they're going to wait 4 months, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
PPP, that's not going to help no farmer if they apply. Let's say it opens tomorrow morning and they apply, right? Because most of them, my sister's a home gardener, so I already know they're plotting their stuff. They're figuring out when to order their seeds. They're getting themselves ready. So if they apply today and it takes y'all 4 months to get them any funding, what's the point?
I mean, it's like you have to put, you won't have to put faith on something. You have to continue on doing what you are already doing, and hoping in grace that you'll get the 120% or 25% forgiveness if they even approve you, right. And that to me is going to be interesting because, like I said, we have less than 2% of farmers. A lot of those farmers do not exist anymore. How do they apply or can they apply to receive that money back? Most of them are still in debt. They've lost their farm. They've lost their house. They've lost their car. And this is stories that you hear over and over and over again. Is this an opportunity for them to get paid back or pay forgiveness? But they're still left at ground zero, right? They still don't own anything. They don't own land anymore. They don't farm anymore. How do you get them back on the farm?
So, and you know what kills me is that when we're having these conversations about farmers, when you're having these conversations about people like me who are like 23-year career chefs, right? And then people in these little, the government or press conference will happen and they'll be talking about it. And you see all these people. I don't understand why these people just didn't get a job. Ma'am, I have been doing this for 23 years. What do you suggest I do? Shall I go to Target? Do I go to Target and apply to be a cashier? Do you want me checking you out? I can barely type. So I'm just saying, you want me on the cash register? I'm going to have a long line and probably get fired. A farmer. They've been doing this for 20, 30, second, third, fourth generation. What are they going to do? Are they going to go to Starbucks now and start making lattes?
And that's the interesting part. And I think that is some research that needs to be done. And I've been really pushing about this research because most of the time these farmers, their significant other didn't work the farm. They worked off the farm just to make ends meet. And so now they're living on that one salary because they don't have their farm anymore, or they can't farm, or they don't have the money to be able to farm, but they're living off of one salary again. And you're right. A lot of these farmers are 3, 4, 5 generations deep. This is what they know. And one thing I did bring up is the difference between what is livelihood and what's business. And a lot of us, especially Black, this is our livelihood. Yeah. This is livelihood. This has never been really considered a business because we're 5, 6, 7 generations deep. So,
right.
when it turned into a business and corporate made it into a bigger conglomerate of a business, it shut out small and medium-sized farms. So this is an opportunity, especially on work that I'm doing and others are trying to do, to really bring the small and medium farms back to the market. And you can really see that the pandemic helped with that when people started going directly to the farmer. So they cut out the middleman and it was farmer to consumer. And we saw a lot of direct sales that were happening there. And I mean, I got really super excited. Also, the researcher in me was like really researching it and really observing people on how they were selling their goods. Because when you think about Black farmers, where do they sell?
Farmers markets, restaurants, side of the road.
Right. And when you think about a white farmer, where do they sell?
Corporate, restaurants, delivery, mail order, that kind of thing.
But the interesting standpoint is a lot of the foundations of farming, such as CSA, was created by a Black man. So you have all these opportunities and foundation of history of Black people that have been, their fingers are in everything. They started, right. they created, it has dived into what the corporate is doing today, was created by Black people. Where has this history gone? Where have we lost it at? And
you know what I think it is too? I'm sorry to interrupt you. So I got a new computer this week. And so I made a post to sell my old computer. And it was funny that all throughout the post, people were giving all types of solutions other than buy. How much is this, so that you can afford what you actually need, right? They were like, get an external hard drive and then do this and then do that and then put some on the cloud and then you can carry. And I was like, I was talking to my trainer about it. I was like, see, this goes to the mentality that sometimes that we have as Black small businesses. We are so used to making $1 out of 15 cents that we accept that as norm. And I was like, in the comment, I finally was like, no, you guys, I'm going to sell this because my productivity is down because I'm bootlegging. I got stuff on this computer. I have things on my phone. I got stuff on the cloud. I can't download here. I need to have one central place where I can download and do my work. So I'm going to sell this computer so that I can have one space to do my work. And we've got to figure out a way, whether they provide some type of training or some type of additional educational resources to help people tap into what that infrastructure is. Because sometimes as Black people, we are so busy working in our business, whether it's farming, whether it's restaurants, whether it's graphic design, whether it's chocolate, that we're not working on our business. Right. And then we pick our heads up and we're like, oh, shoot.
Yeah, we got left behind.
Right. But only because I feel that, as you said, when you started that whole conversation, we're used to settling.
Right.
We're used to settling. And we should have making do. And then the ones that are saying, enough is enough, I'm not settling. Oh, you're bougie. Oh, you're uppity. Oh, you get that title. And then I think in our community, we have to cut that out. We just have to cut it out because we're not just holding ourselves back, we're holding our whole community back. When instead of lifting us up and saying, you know what, girl, you're right about that computer. You go get what you need. And if there's
I know somebody who can buy yours. Let me help you sell.
Right. I'm gonna give you a helping hand because you know what? One day I might need that helping hand. So, right. I think we start so good and then we fall short. And then we say, hey, guess what? It's 2020. COVID is kicking our butt and we're going to do something new and we're going to change and have a better outlook. And then you get halfway through it. Right now we're in 2021 and we're like, what in the heck is going on?
We're in 2020 part 2.
Right.
Yeah.
But we have to be able to say, you know what? Our community, we have to lift it up regardless of all these issues that we have going on. Let's make it happen. In every category.
Right. And then I think there's a big thing that, and a lot of people don't talk about it, is trust and mistrust. And, and especially in agriculture and farming, that trust has been damaged by violence, by deceiving, by land grabs, you name it, it has been done. And you now want them to trust this part of the government that helped create those issues within
the system that failed them. Yeah.
Right. So you have this huge institutional racism within USDA, and it may not be on the upper level and the suits and the people that get to just do the Zoom every day. You're looking at the local level of those people and the good old boys that have been there for 20, 30 years in those same positions and holding the checkbook and wanting to give to their friends before they give the rest of the change out. And that needs to change. That needs to be cleaned up. It needs to start from the bottom up and really kind of connect USDA again. I think USDA is clunky. I've said it before. I said it to them. It is very clunky. And if you don't understand, if you're just hiring, you're not understanding what the cogs and the wheels are doing, you're not working. Your whole system and machine's not working.
But this is why your work is so important, because a few weeks ago, we were talking like after the show with Teresa and a couple other people. And this, we were both all in the same agreement that I'm tired of talking about what white people have or have not done or what they are or are not going to do. I'm at the point now where I want to hold people like you and other people in my circle who are in these rooms, who have the platform to have these conversations, accountable. Are you being an advocate for your people with the platform that you have? And are you in the room shucking and jiving, as my grandmother would say? Or are you in there asking the tough questions and saying the uncomfortable things and making sure that you're highlighting the issues? Otherwise, then why are you there?
Right. And I mean, and I go in there and pretty much say, I don't have skin in the game, right? They don't have to give me money. I didn't have money from them to begin with, but I have questions. And my number one question that I ask, especially in anything that has to do with USDA and a lot of the governments, is like, how do you create a successful Black farmer? I ask them that. How do you create a successful Black farmer? And the answer I get back is crickets. They don't know. And then I go, how do you create a successful farmer? Period. Like, how do you create one? Pretty much that's what you're going to hear. You hear a little in the background, people looking at
like,
yeah, they don't know. And I'm not there to try to show them the way. I'm asking these questions because we need to create a system that will be sustainable.
You know why they don't know? Because we've allowed willful ignorance to be acceptable. And now as Black people, we cannot allow willful ignorance anymore. Well, I'm not going to sit here and allow you to be in my presence and pretend like you have no idea how we got here. We're not going to do that.
And then the question that definitely comes up to me is like, you're handing this money over, but are you asking for forgiveness? Are you being that white person that's giving money to me and thinking everything is going to be okay? Mm-hmm. Where's the sustainability in that? There's no sustainability in what they're attempting to do unless they get to the root of the problem. And then they figure out, how do you create more? Because I think their goal in mind, and this is just me and my assumption, is that they need to create more Black farmers to show the proof that this really works, right? They need to show that Black farmers are being sustainable because we help them on their own.
But then it goes back to the trust and mistrust piece, right? So there's trust and mistrust with us and the Caucasian cohorts, but we have to be honest, there's trust and mistrust with us in a community. And they've got to break down that barrier so we don't feel like if you have a farm and I have a farm and we're 10 miles apart, that we can't, as they call it in the nonprofit world now, that's where I'm at, it's called power building, right? Capacity building, that we can't collaborate and work together on this thing because we're so afraid that if you get a piece of the pie, then I don't get a piece.
Right. And I call that the Highlander.
The token Black participant in this.
I call it the Highlander, and I'm aging myself. If you ever seen Highlander, the show that says, there only can be one, is usually what they say before they like chop off the other person's head, and like, it only can be me, right? Like, I can only be the only Black person in the room that makes cakes. I can only be the only Black person in the room who is
growing cucumbers. You can't grow cucumbers because I got that.
Because I got that and I have that light shined on me. Well, in reality, there's like 500 of them behind me that do the same damn thing too, because we need all 500 of them to supply cucumbers to the United States. Right. I'm not, did you eat my cucumbers today? It's not like that, and so It is a lot of mistrust, but it's like you said, it's mistrust in our own community of not trusting each other, because it always has been, let me throw that one piece of meat to the dogs, and then whoever's going to get it's going to get it. It's going to survive, right?
Like,
it's like
Hunger Games, may the odds be ever in your favor.
It is very much like that. May the odds be in your favor. And when it comes to this, because, and I'm trying to break down, like, no one organization is going to be able to do this. I've said this from the beginning. I'm not trying to replicate what other organizations do. I reached out to as many organizations before I even launched to find out what people are doing. Where are the gaps? How can I help not recreate the wheel? I'm not trying to do that. I want the wheel to go faster. I want it to be stronger. How do we get
goes faster with collaboration and me trusting you and being like, okay, girl, actually, I have the answers to 7 through 10. I'm gonna tell you what they are, and not being like, I don't know, I'm not sure how that happened.
And I think that's the scary part, is that we also have to forgive ourselves and what we had to do to survive.
Yeah.
And we need to we know this, we work better together and we're stronger together. But the reality is that especially when it comes to money and it comes to grant money, they're like, who can I give it to? It's like, it's that throwing, may the odds be in your favor. And we're choosing your organization. And the reality is like, cool, my organization, well, I'm working with these 5 organizations in the background and we're creating this project. So we're going to subcontract these 5 or 6 companies that are all together that are working on something similar. Right. So we can make sure everybody gets a piece of the pie. Everybody gets a piece of this meat, because in reality, I'm not trying to be on top. I don't know everything.
Because what we don't know is that the pie is like the proverbial fishes and 5 loaves of bread, right? We think it's just one pie that we have to feed the multitudes with, when really this pie is like regenerating. And and if there's plenty of this pie to go around, because there's so much. It's not just that one thing, and we've got to get our minds.
So my question to the two of you, because I think Shanita and I have this conversation pretty much every time, right? How is it for us, for our Black community, our brown community, what is it that starting from the inside of that circle, how do you make that spread so that it fills our full community, from getting rid of that fear and that mistrust and the understanding, and giving them all the information so that we're not doing that crab in the barrel kind of thing? What is it that I'm just want your wheels to turn, because I started all the way back. That's where Culinary Wonders came from, and why you only have a certain amount of Black chefs that are showcased in Food and Wine magazine and Gourmet magazine.
I call that the Power Rangers.
Right? Right? Why is it that, no harm to Marcus Samuelson, but why does he have to speak for us? Why is it that, and I could name off all these people, and I could probably call them up and say, hey, I didn't mean no harm, but it's the truth.
They know it's the truth. They very much know it's the truth. And it's something that, that hits me too, that I talk about too. Like I call them the Power Rangers, and, like it's the same, they all the Black Power Rangers, right? The Black Power Rangers, they're all the same one. They all can talk about the same subjects, or they're always the same ones in the room, or you choose one basically because you feel safe.
Right. Why is it there has to be one Oprah? Why does it have to be one Tyler Perry with billions of dollars? Why couldn't it be? And then in their circle, they only help the people that they want to pull into their circle. Why is it it can't be that one big giant circle and change the whole dynamic of us brown people? When
it's too uncomfortable, right? It's too uncomfortable because it's never been that way. And to answer your question, I feel, and I hope I hold to it, is like transparency. I mean, I moved into a community of Black folks that didn't know me, but I was kind of put up on this platter, like, look what this Black girl's doing. This girl is good. Once they figured out, oh, we could trust her, that she was really serious and she's smart and they went through the check marks.
And you're articulate. She's articulate. Right. She's well spoken.
I can say, I can speak in a complete sentence, and then I can code switch when I need to, and add an extra verb or some adjective in there, and I need to. But the thing is like, to get the community to trust was to be very transparent, right? I have to be very transparent, but also vulnerable, willing to listen and listen to where they see that they feel that I'm at fault, listening to their perceptions of the situation, because they don't really know you, right? But you had the same idea they've had for 5 years and nobody listened to them. And then I'm like, you've had this idea? Well, let's work together. Let's get this going. Where did you hit the wall, and where can I bust a hole through that for you? Because it seems I must be on the other side. So it has to do with a lot of being myself, but allowing myself to be vulnerable and letting that shield down and letting people come and let me know that, but also me being transparent and being able to go to people to allow them to go, well, how did you do that? I was like, well, let's have this conversation, because the thing is, it's lonely on the other side.
Yeah.
It is, I'm one, right? I'm one piece of pepper and the salt every time. And I'm like, I need you.
And I'm 40. I've been doing this one piece of pepper, the first for 23 years. I'm tired.
Right. We need more seasonings in here, right? Like, how can I get more people to be involved? Because guess what? I ain't gonna be here forever. I'm just trying to leave a legacy for my children and for people's other children, right? How do I get them to have this pathway? How do I open this, that I'm just putting a stonework that they can continue on this path or create a new path? And that's all I want to do. I know.
I think that the people coming up now, I think that there's one more piece to that you've added, is consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, the people that have been watching us over this time and moving forward are going to see where you and like Teresa and Christy and Colleen and all of those people have been consistent, right? Even when you had the pass the mic and the amplify your voice and all of that stuff that happened during the George Floyd in the wake of the pandemic, you didn't change your story and you were consistent. And that's what's going to help with this internal, because I feel like there's a whole group of us, right, that are in the middle. And it's like, what's that tea? It's like an Asian tea, when you put the water on it and then it like blooms out. Yeah.
Flower.
Yes, I feel like that's what's gonna happen as we continue to be consistent, as we continue to ask the tough questions, like you said, and make people uncomfortable. Then other people are gonna see that, and then it's gonna make them feel. I don't want to say emboldened, but maybe the word is emboldened. Then they want to speak up a little bit too, because now they feel supported and they don't feel like, again, I'm out here on my own trying to say this and nobody's listening. If you got one, you got two, you got three, and it will grow.
Well, I mean, you got to understand, we've all felt this way, right? We've all had an experience where we're the only Black person in the room and bought there on purpose, to talk about a subject or to make everybody feel comfortable because they are going to talk about a subject. And I've been done, that has been done to me more than once. And then I'm like, oh, you only chose me because I'm Black? And I'm open and honest about it, because and they're like, no, then why am I the only Black one in this room talking about Black folks? Like, I am not the Black speaker of Black folks. I cannot speak for everybody. And
I checked my resume and it's not there. I didn't. Yeah,
it happens.
I'm not qualified.
It happens over and over again. It happens in my community, in which I tell them, I'm like, look, I'm still a stranger. I'm not from here. My last name's not from here. I did not go to high school here. I did not grow up here. So I cannot speak for Black people. I can only speak on my lived experience and my perception of what has happened since I've been here, which is 180 completely different
than somebody who's been here all along. Correct. But that's the thing. Even Paula was saying that last week. You're being very studious of the platform that you're given, right? Because see, that goes back to that old mentality we're talking about before, where people were so thirsty and so hungry for that little bit of spotlight, then they'll be like, well, I don't live here, but shoot, this might be my only opportunity. You feel comfortable being like, I don't live here, but I do know farmer so-and-so, because I buy my produce from them and they've lived here all along. And this person would be a better person to have a conversation with about this particular subject. Would you like for me to introduce them?
It's like creating steps to your podium. And that's pretty much what I attempt to do, is like, if I don't know the subject or I feel I'm uncomfortable, then I'm not an expert. I'm more than happy to find someone else, or even decline and tell you, I'm sorry, I'm not the right person for this. Because in reality, I don't know everything. And I said that before. I don't know everything. I can't be the spokesperson for something I have no idea about. And I feel like being able to be vulnerable like that and say I need help, or I can find somebody, or somebody come to me, makes more connections. It makes me stronger. It makes their opportunity stronger for them to get a piece of this pie and be a part of this picture. Because I just can't do it alone. A girl's tired, like I'm tired. I'm tired. I got a whole family. Like,
girl, you do.
I got a whole family, and
we're on this like virtual thing where the work is like, some days I'm like, when does my work day actually start and end? Because I feel like there's like, it's all commingled. I'm working, I'm doing laundry, I'm making dinner, but I'm still working. It's just, It feels like it doesn't ever stop.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I gotta put a head wrap on because I gotta go on this. I gotta go on this Zoom. I'm in my closet. People don't know. I got a baby sleeping. I made dinner. I was like, I was on another call earlier. With something else, and I'm just like, my life here, myself. I still got to keep going. I have. Right. I have a 1-year-old, I have a 2-year-old about to be 3, and I got a 4-year-old, and I got a teenager, a freshman this year. So, and he's doing at home. He's 9th grade at home. So, I have all these children with different emotions that have been quarantined because we ain't allowing them out there with them germs, and so playing mom, playing friend.
Playing friend.
Playing with, I haven't had to use my imagination for a very long time, like,
Look, I was on Amazon loading up because I'm like, shoot, school's about to be out. I need arts and craft kits because I'm not doing this shit again.
Gonna be your friend, girl. You better look at them kids' crafts on pictures. You put kids' craft shows up right away.
I need kits. I need sewing kits, and I just need stuff because I can't do this all summer. So before we get to our last question, I want to ask what can we expect from the 40 Acres Project and where you're going now? I mean,
so like I keep telling, so much has happened, and it's a lot of, everybody's like, well, have you bought land? Have you bought land? And I'm like, well, if you look out the window, there's land. It's never been about getting the land. At first the romanticizing of getting the land was great till you started realizing there wasn't a gap, it's a canyon, right? So it's a programmatic of trying to understand what the need is. And so we've had a lot of calls. America Farmland and Trust has been a great partner through this whole year, and understanding about land grants development. We're working with different organizations, and we'll continue working with different organizations across the nation. We have bought land we have a piece of land that we have partnered with 8 other people, and 6 of us are chefs, and they're Black chefs.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and then this land is in St. Helena, in South Carolina, the Gullah Geechee area. It was a lot of work. We're going through the process. The land is being surveyed right now. We're going through this deal. Don't buy land in South Carolina. It takes a long time to go through the process of who owns it, and this is what happens to Black folks because Air Properties has really destroyed Black owned land in the South, and especially in this area.
But you have to probably explain Air Property to the layman.
So what the Air Property is that property can be passed down, but it can say Bobby Joe has 5 acres, Jan owns 2, Bubba owns 5, and they split their Air Properties. And what happened is that Air Properties over time became so valuable. And when you're talking about Gullah Geechee area, the land taxes have gone up astronomically to the point that these heirs cannot afford to pay for the property. And so in these areas,
that's intentional, clearly.
Yes, and in these areas, if you do not pay your taxes for that year, your land goes up for sale.
Yeah.
And your Air Property, you may have owned you may have owed $200 to $700. They will start the sell around that because it's an Air Property. But if you are there and you're like, and I was there, I went to witness one last year. You stood up and you said, I am the heir of this property. Please do not bid on my property. The bidder will start it at $700, and you're like, I'm going to buy my property back. Then it will go up to $1,000. I watch properties go up to $80,000 in ownership and taxes. The person who's there is not able to pay that $80,000 back, plus the principal, plus the taxes that they own on that property. It was very sad. I used part of my platform because I was doing something for Soledad O'Brien. And after they turned the camera off, I said, you need to go and you need to do this. And they did. And when they went to do that, that really kickstarted in the legislature, because they called the legislator and they called the people and they were like, what are you doing about this? It's COVID 2020. Nobody got no job. What you going to do? I'm coming down and doing a story on this. They put a bill in within.
Then they're like, wait.
Oh, girl, they were typing. They were like, within 24 hours, got a bill in about holding and pausing back the 2019 selling because people in 2020 weren't able to make money to try to buy back their own property. But the sell of the 2020 to 2021 properties did go forward, and they still have time to be able to pay for those pieces of land. But it's moments like those, that people don't see or understand unless somebody speaks up and says something about it. To watch horrifically, an elder lose her property over $700. And I was there hoping that I would be able to buy that property and go to that elder and be like, we got you. Right. We will work something out so you can own that property. I couldn't even afford it. When it jumped to $80,000 to $120,000, you just cried. It wasn't even your property. And the amazing thing, what was so scary is that everybody had masks on, so you couldn't see their face. People came in hoodies with glasses, and they were like, didn't want you to know exactly who they were because they were about to buy your property, and they probably were your neighbor. So it was so disheartening going, you wouldn't help your fellow man. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't help your neighbor, your community.
And this has happened for hundreds of years.
Yes. And this has been happening for hundreds of years, playing back and forth on property land. And the air properties are getting smaller and smaller and smaller down there.
For some of especially in that Gullah Geechee area, what people don't understand, that's all they had.
Yeah.
That is all they had. You're talking about this. We're talking about land and property that has been passed down from generation post slavery and Reconstruction. That's how long these people's families have had this land. And for them to lose it over $700, $500, $300, $250 dollars is ridiculous.
Yeah. And like I said, it hurt your heart. It really did. It hurt your heart. And just being a stranger, just watching it. And for the people that were willing to risk COVID to come in to do this, and to buy all these properties, and knowing that what those properties really were, have a conscience to be able to do that was just
no conscience.
No, they call it business. That's what they call business.
That's that business. And so that's another aspect that's a little bit frustrating when you talk about business and do Black people understand business and understand when they're in a business, because that is what some of the scariness about it is, that where we don't have the education, but let alone we were never told, we get the rug pulled from underneath us. And
because your grandmama had a relationship with the bank manager, right? Because of whatever reason. And now this man dies. Some young whippersnapper from wherever comes in, and he's like, look, it's about the bottom line. I understand that the previous man let grandmama pay when she could pay and do what she could do, but we don't do that anymore. That's a part of all those small banks getting bought up and getting put into these big conglomerates now, where they're like, no, it has to be profitable. Sorry, we don't make relationships on brown paper sacks and napkins anymore. We're going to need some payments.
Yeah, and that's the same thing when you go back to the agriculture and really understanding that farmers are in a business, and understanding that line between business and livelihood. And it's an educational thing, and we're hoping, for 40 acres, that's one of our statements of having education, having that mentorship, trying to create that sanctuary space, or that space in which we can give you information, that trust, build that trust back up, You don't have to necessarily talk to USDA. We can help talk to USDA, and we can really put in layman terms that this is what you really got to apply and this is what you really got to do. Because they don't know how to talk to Black folks. You ever been that person where they're like, "Oh, how do I talk to them?" Well, the same way you're talking to me. I'm Black, and it's that simple, but they don't do it and they feel like they don't understand it. So we're hoping that one of those missions for us is to create that accelerator to help create successful Black farmers.
I love it.
That it's needed. It's needed.
Okay, so if you could go back to the beginning of you making this transition into this food agricultural farm advocacy space, what would you tell Adrian? What would today's Adrian tell that Adrian?
Book a massage once a month because you're going to go to the chiropractor because you are going to need it because you were going to be sitting in that chair for a very long time. Think big, keep thinking big, because and be unapologetic. I mean, I've been unapologetic about it, but really trust in what you're saying in the unapologetic part of it, because you have this experience and you have talked to people who have had this experience that have not had this voice, and for some reason down the line, a year later, you're going to have this platform. So allowing myself to not apologize for what I need to say, what I need to do. And sometimes I gotta go grab that cookie and have some, and be like, damn, I shouldn't have said that,
Oh, well.
But oh well, I'm like rewarding myself with that cookie, like, girl, you said that. But it's what's needed. And and just to make sure I just look out for myself, like health wise, because a lot of people don't know there is, I had some scary things happen in the middle of this, and that were not preventable on my end, but it's still like
makes you think.
Yeah, you gotta like, I backed up and looked at the bigger picture, but I didn't include myself, right? I didn't include what it was going to do to my body, what the toll was going to happen. I've been very lucky to not have gray hairs, I
don't either. I dye them.
Yeah, when I stress, I get a white eyelash. So I have one white eyelash.
Oh, wow.
And I've had it for the full year. So I've been like looking like you got to go. So, like watching my stress levels. But I think that's what I would just tell myself to, be bold and be unapologetic and stand my
beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on our show.
I know.
I've learned so much. I've learned so very much. Even before we came on the show, I did a little live and I said, I'm going to be quiet because I just want to hear your voice. I want to hear what you had to say and hear your passion and your love, because you're showing you got that family love for the whole community. You know what I'm saying? That's not just, I love what I do. That's that family love. And you're giving it out to everybody that you possibly can, which is very appreciative.
Oh, I'm gonna cry because it's like, I try, and I look at the history. I look at Fannie Mae, and I'm just like, what she did for this community was, for our own people, was just amazing. And for her to change the system economically in a way till she passed away was astounding. This one woman that founded and kept going, even in her health, she, as her health declined, she kept going. And that's what I say, watch myself, watch my health, watch my body, be kind to your body and yourself in the middle of this, because us as Black women, we put ourselves last in all this, to the point that we physically got to get injured, right? To finally slow down, there has
to be a whole panoramic before I sit down and think,
right.
Maybe I don't want to work my body until I hit the wall, and then I'm down for 2 days, and then I get back up until I hit the wall again. Maybe that is not the way to go about it.
It used to be like, oh, my feet are swollen. We don't even care now that our toes are looking like they're going to pop off, look like Tootsie Rolls. We don't even care no more, we try to keep marching and keep going on. And And I mean, there's going to be a part that we're going to have to realize that, guess what? It's going to be there tomorrow.
Yep. I just learned how to take a nap. I laid down for 3 hours before the show. I don't do that. Even through the whole
she said she took a nap early. I was like,
I know. Even through the whole pandemic, I worked. I got up and went to work every day.
Did you feel like you worked harder during the pandemic?
I was working. I was working hard. I was baking. I was cooking, and then I was running a little coffee shop. It was just, I was going back and forth and driving all the way to Trumpland, USA, Fleming Island, in the name of Jesus, here in Florida. I just pray about that every time because it affected me. That it was very overwhelming. But now I've had 6 weeks we're under construction right now to open our new location. And I have enjoyed my home. I've redecorated one of the bedrooms.
Girl. She over here making blankets.
Yeah, I'm making blankets, and I'm knitting, and it's so peaceful. And I'll be making some more. I'm about to start. I already have 3 on order. I'm
a green thumb. I took the avocados from work, and I have like 20 to 30 avocado trees growing right now.
Right.
I started going as a chef, like, what's our responsibility in food, right? So, I took the avocado seeds. I said, no waste. Let's see what we can do with them, I
don't know if you thought this because I'm a parent like you. So mine are 24, 20, 18, and 7. And so I thought, where you said, what's my responsibility in food? What I thought kind of like midway through my I'm on vacation. What's my responsibility as a parent? Because I think what hit me is that my 18-year-old son was out protesting for the same shit my 95-year-old grandfather protested for. So I was like, what's my 7-year-old's life going to be like? When she's 18, is she going to be protesting for the same things? And so now that's not acceptable for me anymore. It's not acceptable.
I feel that now, though, what your 95-year-old grandfather or my grandfather or grandmother was doing back then, it was so undercover. They were coming out and saying, yo, now it's in your face. You have, video,
violence is still there.
You have everything, and it has to change. There's no reason for it to just be pushed back up under the rug.
Well, I think we as a people are starting to be different. That's the part that I was getting at. I think that this time down, and you have people like you, people like me, all these people in our even culinary community who are unapologetic about now saying, okay,
enough is enough,
I mean, and it is enough. And, like being a parent, my responsibility, mine are so young, what are they going to remember? God, I spent too much time with my mom, and I looked at that as this is an opportunity with my young ones that I did not get with my older one. Right. But, it took a pandemic for me to sit and breathe and really cherish these moments that I have with my kids, even though they yelling and fighting and karate chopping each other and stuff, but there's things that we didn't know. So for example, for my eldest son, we found out he was colorblind to the color mint.
Oh.
And he looks at mint and it's really a sky blue to him. And it's a rare genetic thing, but it was things like that we would have never caught. And, just by hindsight, having a conversation, and he didn't know because he's never seen the color, right? And getting to see my kid and be there to teach them, my little girl how to walk, get to see her dance for the first time. These are things you would see, they would send you
a video.
You get the video. If you saw my video last time, homegirl was under there twisted, and I was just like, "What, girl, you scaring me?" Because that, you won. And she got to when she put her shoes on for the first time and to go outside, she's jumping with both feet off the ground, and you're like, "Oh Lord!" And you're like, "You won!" Can 1-year-old? You're Googling, can 1-year-olds jump? Because it's these things that you missed, when you're raising your kids and being a chef and going in, and you always said, "Oh yeah, they grew up in the kitchen." But now that you are not in the kitchen 24/7, what are they growing up in?
But your Sunday dinners are coming back.
Yes.
It's coming full circle. It's coming back to the family. It's coming back to the core, which is actually it's changing the whole outlook of what we have today.
Right. Because now you were hard pressed to get me to work like I worked before. Now I'm like,
yeah, no, I ain't doing that no more. Right?
Wait,
I worked before the pandemic, I worked 7 days a week.
Me too.
And then I was like, no, we cutting this Monday out. And my husband was like fighting it, and now he's like, "Woo, this is the best thing we done ever did is take a Monday off." I
want Saturday, Sunday,
Lord
Monday.
I mean, that was my whole goal, was like get myself out of the kitchen, get myself back up in the front. Let me do the work that I really, really love and I want to do, but I love this, but I really want to do this, and I want to train people and have their ability to do this. Get me out of the kitchen. And then now I threw myself back in the kitchen. I was like, we ain't playing this game no more. I need a day off. I need to breathe. I don't want to look at my restaurant on the day. I want to be able to focus on my family. I want to walk the dogs.
Right.
Without my feet hurting. Right.
Or you just want to walk.
Or
you want to breathe and just walk. Right.
I want to roll over and get out the bed without being like, okay.
No, I want to be able to stay in bed. I want to be able to look at the time and say, oh, I ain't got nothing to do. I ain't got no worries.
Yeah.
Girl, I woke up the other day and it was 9 o'clock. I said, wait a minute, I forgot something. It scared me.
Yes.
It scared me.
Yes.
And I was like, because I don't do that.
Yeah.
Either I'm up by 6:30 or 5 a.m. and I'm in front of the computer doing what I got to do before I walk out the door. Right. But that's a blessing. I didn't get to do that for the whole 2020. But I got to do this in the last 6 weeks. So
that leaves me wondering, like, how many years did we add back onto our lives?
Right.
Non-stress, the rest that we are allowing ourselves. And I think we need to put our foot down and be like, that ain't coming back. Like, you ain't gonna run me to the ground like that no more.
Mm-hmm. No. I think, but this is the funny part, and it's sad to say this, but the white folks ain't doing that no more either.
No, they were waiting for that.
They ain't trying to do that.
And I think that's our question. Like, as a Black woman, my favorite word is no. I will say no. But the thing is now I'm saying no for myself.
Right.
Like, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to rest today. It's not that, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to go do this. It's going to be like, no, I'm just going to take the day off. I mean, some things I got to do. I got my sake. I'm a professional sake certification. I got that done during this time. I'm learning how to play the cello. I'm getting to oil paintings. I'm doing pottery. I'm
learning Korean through K-pop movies, but
안녕하세요.
I don't know yet, girl. I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
I'm still learning. On that one.
No, here's what I had to do. This is where I messed myself up. I was mixing them all up. I was watching Mandarin movies and Japanese movies and Filipino movies and Korean movies. So now I'm like, okay, you got to just watch Korean movies because your ears are like,
cute. Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah, my husband speaks 6 languages, and so and I grew up in Texas, so they were take Spanish, and I was like, I want to take French. Well, hell, my husband speaks fluent French. My mom was like, take Spanish, you in Texas, but I want to learn Portuguese. So Portuguese is my next one, and playing the cello. My eldest plays the cello.
My daughter plays the cello. My 20-year-old, she plays the cello.
Yeah, so I want to learn how to play the cello. And he has an adult size cello, and we got him one. He brought it upstairs to my office because he's like, you will learn how to play the cello. But learning, doing the sake certification, these are things for me, right? Like, I'm not leaving my job and going to Japan and, making sake. These are my curiosities. These are things that I want to be influenced.
It's that list that we made in the kitchen that was like, if I have time, I want to do blah, blah, blah.
But how many people did that? But how many people did that during this pandemic?
I did. After I ate and laid around, I was like, okay, where's my list?
didn't write that in there? What that napkin I wrote that on?
Girl, you done watched the Tiger King and every doggone Netflix. It's a SB joke. Okay, now that I've watched all of Netflix, it's time for me to get up.
I'm like going back and watching series. So I'm about to go watch Insecure again. You know, I watch Craft Love, Country like twice. You know, I'm like making sure I didn't miss any kind of
right.
stuff, like I'm like, get my Black movies in, because I'm not gonna be able to do this again when the world decides that, oh, we need to pick ourselves up and go, because I'm still gonna give myself that time, yes. I feel I owe it to myself, yes, over the 20-something years that I've been moving, yes, nonstop. And I want to get back to things I used to do. I want my body back.
Hey.
I want my feet back.
Girl, the feet. I want to wear some heels.
Roll over out of bed and you put your feet down.
Yes.
Like you're like, okay, am I ready to put this pressure on these feet?
Right. Am I gonna fall? These knees gonna hold me up?
What's gonna pop?
Yeah, what's gonna pop? Am I gonna make it to the toilet? Am I gonna get off the toilet? Wow. I want to be able to go, I take care of my feet, I buy the right shoes and stuff, but your feet be swollen sometimes, right? So you're just like, when them feet, you can't bend them toes, and you're just like, whoo.
Where's the flip-flops or the Crocs? I know I shouldn't wear these, but this is really about all I can put on.
But you gotta go work another 30-something hours on them damn same feet. You gotta take care of yourself. So I am at this point where I told him, I don't know if it's my age or if I just had I'm a brush with reality that this is the only life I have. These are the only toes and feet I have.
Yes.
And if I want them, I can say no. And I can crawl my ass back up in bed and say, we ain't opening today because we're just not. That's it. We're just not opening today. We're just not opening today. And I'm okay with saying that. Before I was like, well, what's the bottom line? How much money do we usually make on our Tuesday?
Right. That was 2018, 2019.
Do I need to make up a story? What can I say so people don't get on Yelp and write bad reviews? Do I need to put some elaborate sign because I just don't feel like being there today?
Yeah. Now it's like, I don't care what they say on Yelp. I don't care what my Google is saying. It's about this right here and being at peace.
I mean, we have modern mom and pop shops, and if you watch other mom and pop shops, they're generations that worked themselves to the bone. When they got to 65, 80, their bodies were ruined. Right. They weren't seeing. They had white lung. They were, it literally took a health problem to get them out the kitchen. It literally took something that they could have dealt with earlier to get them out the kitchen now and pass it down generation or to sell it. I do not want to be that person.
I'm 52. I'm 52. I'll be 52 in July. We have the same birthday, but she's 13 years apart. But I feel that with everything that I have going on in the mix right now, I really need to retire at 58.
I was saying 25. I was like, get me out of here.
Well, my money ain't that quite where it need to be, but it will be. I'm speaking that into existence. You understand?
Put it in the universe.
Take my little brown butt down to Grenada and grow chocolate.
Toes in the sand. Toes in the sand. That's all I'm saying.
That's it.
I mean, y'all can't really see, but you see this complexion I got going on here? I ain't got enough sun.
Girl, I said when we first
started. I'm bouncing in May.
I didn't have my light on. I said, "Oh Lord, I'm not gonna look right in the playback. I got to put back."
I literally had to change the shade of my makeup being up here twice, and I'm just like, I know if I go home, they're gonna say something to me about the color of my damn skin. That's gonna be the first thing out their damn mouth. I'm like, I need some sand. I need some toes in the sand.
I cannot wait to get back in the islands. It's killing me. I've been locked up here for a year. And it's killing me.
Yeah, and I have my first
States after what life is and being on the go and looking at beautiful water. Florida does not have beautiful water.
No.
I know what real water is.
I used to live in Eustis, Florida when I grew up. So we called it useless Florida.
Okay.
So I know exactly what you're talking about. You ain't got no water not nice.
I cannot wait till May just to be looking at just even though I'm going to, well, now it's Bahamas or Jamaica, either one. I just can't wait to be and feel the air is different.
You smells different, right? You breathe different. You breathe deeper. And I'm trying to get back into my yoga. I'm trying to breathe deeper now, and I'm trying to give myself these moments. It's small moments because of these children. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like those moments of like just that breathing exercise that allows my lungs and chest to stretch a little bit more. I wasn't doing that before, I was literally like, I can't touch my toes no more. I was like, I remember when I had my body and I could reach beyond my toes.
Girl, they said do the busted challenge. I was like, the sit it challenge, okay? Because this little knees ain't busting nothing. I'm gonna need a stool. Can I get a stool?
They tell me get them little rubber bands and resistant bands. I'm like, girl, I'm not even going to, I'm resisting to get up right now. So, it's just this whole aspect of like, it's a perspective, right? It's like, what were you doing in 2019? Have you lost your goddamn mind? What were you doing in, like 2020, you allowed yourself to rest. And I look at you as resting. You aren't being lazy. You were catching up on the rest that you
I told her that.
You well deserved of what you've been going through in the last couple of years, the rest of the mental state of what 2020 was putting us through. And there's days I didn't want to move. I didn't want to get up and I had to answer that email. I was like, you get an answer tomorrow. There's no reason I need to answer you right now. And there's no reason I need to answer you when you decided to write me the next day, because I said I was going to get to you to this day anyway. So you're going to just take a moment, right? So it's okay. It's okay to put a pause on it because you deserve it.
Yeah.
Right. You guys, and that's a good place to be like, look, ladies, this is Women's History Month. It's okay to put a pause on it because we deserve it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's been amazing. Another good Wednesday conversation. I'm sure we will catch back up with you. Lord willing, we both have our COVID shots, and maybe we'll be in South Carolina watching you turn.
We'll be in a big RV coming through. We're speaking we need us an RV sponsor for this show because we're going to hit the road and visit everybody and just enjoy
this show on the road. We're going to go down there and watch them turn dirt and plant whatever it is they're going to plant.
Hey. We cooking on the way, cooking through the RV and
there'll be all these chefs there. They'll be like, when you come down, you'll have all different types of food.
There we go. We go.
I love it. Well, it has been an amazing Wednesday conversation. We will see you guys back next Wednesday for our final episode of Women's History Month with Chef El Simone. I'm really excited to have her on and talk about everything again. It's been an amazing girlfriends chat, and we will see you guys next week.